Welcome, everybody. My name is Will. I am Director Outreach here at the Stanford Graduate School of Business. And this is day 3 of Application Week, Letters of Recommendation. I have been getting a lot of questions about letters of recommendation this year. I don't know if there's additional themes or if people are just able to shift their attention from one place to another. I know we don't have as much content about letters of recommendation the way that we have some of our other application workshops, or even just how we talk about essays so much. So maybe there's more content, you have a little bit of more exposure there. This is the first time we are providing this information, and particularly given the context of this year and the questions we've been hearing, really want to do my best to help let you understand a little bit more about how we approach letters of recommendation and ways for you to think about, okay, who in my life might I be able to ask? Not just that, but how can I support them? Knowing that not everybody might be comfortable or have had experience writing letters of recommendation. So today's going to be a little bit different in that there is going to be a section for you as the applicant. And then I'm also going to be splitting it. So the last chunk of today is going to be geared towards recommenders. So if you don't know how to support or if they have questions, I'm going to be splitting this up into 2 separate YouTube videos as well, so that you have a resource that they'll be able to tap into. It'll be shorter, hopefully that much more kind of consumable and digestible, so that they can do and feel confident that they can advocate on your behalf. So let's get started, at least with the applicant portion. So same as the rest of this week, major themes throughout here. Oops, and I will adjust this slide when we do editing. So the holistic review process, that is the key to everything here. And I will be giving a window on how we use letters of recommendation, not the work and activities piece that's stated here. Once again, resist the urge to judge your journey. I think this is another space where people tend to say, I'm an entrepreneur, I don't have a current direct supervisor. I work in a family business, or I'm a college student. Given who's in my life, does that put me at a disadvantage? Is this letter of recommendation better or worse? So I want us to kind of lay that to rest and fully recognize that because each one of us is in a different place in life, we have different relationships. Naturally, an extension of that is we're probably going to have some different people in different roles, titles, relationships that will also be our best advocates and potential recommenders in this process. You do stuff, tell me about it. Same thing, we are going to be prompting our recommenders to say, hey, tell me about a timeline. So coming back to that philosophy as past behavior as a great indicator for future behavior. And then once again, we already have a suite of workshops. So if you are excited, you want to get going, and these videos aren't posted just yet, we can help you get there. All right, so feel free to hit the snooze button if you've been attending events all week, because this part's going to be the same, but I think it's essential that we continue to emphasize it, so that one day in your dreams, if the word holistic review process comes up, you are going to feel confident, and it's going to be a good dream and not one that you wake up full on in sweat about. So the holistic review process, it's characterized by, hey, everything that you submit, I'm trying to get a sense of who you are, where you're coming from, and who's going to be the person that shows up in the classroom and community. Knowing that, today's focus is going to be on how we think about the holistic review process in the MBA application process. You can use the application to apply to both the 2-year full-time MBA program, as well as the 1-year kind of advanced mid-career professional master's, the MSX. Today, once again, we'll be focusing on the MBA program, but theme will be there. And key takeaways, there's no formulas, no equations, no algorithms. I'm trying to get a sense of who you are. Given that I can find information about how you think, how you lead, and how you see the world anywhere in the process. There's no benchmarks, there's no cutoffs, there's no quotas, and no one part of the application is necessarily more or less important than the other. The letters of recommendation are critical here because they can help me understand any of those categories, and they also can help provide some of the information about context and the spaces you move through. So, moving through this quickly, one more time: how you think, how you lead, how you see the world. These are industry agnostic, background agnostic. They can emerge anywhere in your life. And so letters of recommendation are going to be a different lens on this. Rather than you sharing your story necessarily, you have plenty of space to do on the GSB application. Here, this is going to be a space for your recommenders to share how they've seen the way that you operate, the way that you might have been making an impact in the relationships and interactions and examples that they've been able to share with you. So we're going to be digging into this much more deeply. So today, once again, we'll be focusing on the MBA admissions process, as well as questions geared towards the letters of recommendation. So if you have questions about other things like what's the experience like, questions about the essays, or how to put your best foot forward in the resume, save those. We have workshops, as I mentioned. A general information session can also be a wonderful place to continue to learn more about that. Today's focus, really want to kind of center on that experience of the letters of recommendation. Okay, so what do we ask for from all of our recommenders? There's going to be two things. You're going to be able to indicate who you're asking, and then they're going to get a prompt. Right? They're going to get an email inviting them to hop onto their recommender portal, where we'll be asking them kind of two buckets of things. So first is a character trait grid, and we'll talk about that more. And then responses to 3 questions. So notice that it's responses to 3 questions and not necessarily letter per se. And we'll get to that as well. But I use this phrasing intentionally. A letter might feel intimidating, whereas I can answer 3 questions, 2 of which are required. That third one is totally optional, so make it even that much more approachable. But let's talk about that character grid for a little bit. So this is a resource that you can find on our GSB MBA admissions letters of recommendation page. It's a hyperlink, maybe 2/3 of the way down the page. So the point is not to read it here, but rather there are many different ways to demonstrate leadership. And I actually think this is a really nice way to think about what that could look like for you as well. And kind of on the scale of, hey, maybe I'm approaching this for the first time, that's not my strongest skill set, to, hey, this is somewhere where you really shine. This is a chance for you to also kind of unpack and understand, provide some frameworks around what leadership could mean for you. So I think there's a couple of different benefits here. So go ahead, if you want to read more. It's actually 2 pages. So this is a snapshot of that first page. There's more leadership competencies and skills that are outlined. So feel free to jump on our website. There is a PDF, and we will pop the link into the webinar chat to help you get there as well. So one other thing that I think does really well is it helps put recommenders in that state of mind of, okay, what kinds of details is the GSB looking for? So already doing our best to help prompt and nudge your recommenders to the types of details that are going to be most helpful to us in the process. Remember, past behavior as a great indicator for future behavior. So when folks are checking that 5 category of you are knocking it out of the park and really excelling in this area, they're encouraged to, hey, tell us about a time when, provide some specific examples to help corroborate these superlatives that you're using to describe this individual. I want you to rest assured that just because someone does not have all 5s does not mean you are any less competitive or compelling of a candidate. We know that given where you are in your career, you might not have been able to demonstrate as much in that space. Maybe you just haven't had the opportunity. Maybe the timeline hasn't been there yet. Maybe you're on that progression. No single leader out there is off the charts in every single category. Sometimes you'll spike in one, sometimes you'll spike in multiple. Sometimes these might be the areas that you're looking to develop. So please don't feel pressured to think, hey, all fives are nothing. That is not the truth of it. This is really, again, just another lens to try and understand kind of where you are in your growth journey. And so once again, you can find this full list on the website. So this is the resource that's going to pop up when you prompt your recommenders and they click onto the portal. It's actually going to look slightly different. So if there's any recommenders on right now who, if you just jumped on, if you're already on the portal, you're like, hey, I remember this looking a little bit different. This is what it is. I think it is a little bit more visually accessible. It's the exact same information using the exact same scale, but it's also a little bit more friendly in the user experience space. Instead of checking a box, you just click the box, which I don't know, I feel like is a little bit more fun than just a rating scale of 1 to 5. But yeah, really leaning into, okay, yeah, here's the impression that this person has made. And oh yeah, here's some examples that could help corroborate that. Because this is going to be some of the fodder potentially for what comes next. So we ask all of our recommenders the same three questions. So the first two are required and the third is optional. So how does the applicant's performance compare to that of other well-qualified individuals in similar roles? Please provide specific examples. Okay, right? What are some of the applicants' principal strengths? And if anything, they're not sure where to go with that, connect the dots with that grid. Okay? One more resource at their fingertips. 2, describe the most important piece of constructive feedback you have given the applicant. Please detail the circumstances and the applicant's response. And then the optional, is there anything else we should know? Please be concise. There is no need to, more is not always more. Sometimes just conveying that core message, that is really helpful to me. I know there was a phrase last week actually that one of our alumni said in terms of feedback, but it applies here as well. Clarity is kindness. So there's no need for someone to think that they have to have a beautiful piece of writing. Again, beautiful is subjective. For me, beautiful is anything that helps me get to know you that much better. Okay, so thinking about that, and we'll click into this a little bit more. I already see questions about who should I be asking? And I will be definitely providing some guidance there, but just wanted to set the framework here. So think about who in your life will be able to answer these questions best for you. And that is already going to be one of those key, maybe like compass direction arrow things that can help guide you in the right way. But what does best mean, right? Let's unpack that a little bit because, you know, best can mean a lot of things to different people. So what does that mean to me as I'm reading your application? Come back to these parts of the prompts. And this is pretty much the exact wording that they're going to get. Please provide specific examples and please detail the circumstances and the applicant's response. If this sounds familiar, it's tell me about a time when. So for me, it's less about the superlatives and more about what are some of the examples and how are these individuals backing up, their assessment of you. And going back to the grid, sometimes someone might check something, but the way that they're describing your experiences and your actions and your impact might provide a whole new lens of color and texture and dimension that can't be captured simply by a 1 through 5 scale. So that's what I'm using. I'm really leaning into, okay, what are they saying? How are they saying it? What are these pieces in here that are the evidence, right? The evidence is the thing that will help me advocate for you best in committee. Okay, so here's some on the tactical, practical. So the FAQ, and remember, these are questions that I've been getting throughout the year, and already, hopefully, I'll be able to knock some of these out for you. So what if I don't have, or I can't ask a direct supervisor? So for example, common instances of this might be work doesn't know that you're applying, maybe there's bonuses or promotions at stake. I never want you to feel like those have to be in jeopardy. It's as simple as clicking work doesn't know. Great. Maybe you're an entrepreneur, so you don't have a formal supervisor, or kind of a different lens on entrepreneurship, family businesses, and your direct supervisor is your mom or your dad. Kind of a biased recommender in that front. And if they aren't pushing 100% for you, that is neither here nor there. So, and then the third kind of very common category here is maybe it's a new role and you just started, so they don't know your work that well. It's a new project. Maybe you're still in the same firm, but you're reporting to someone different. Totally okay. In these circumstances, come back to who can answer these questions best, right? Who has some of this best insight on who I am, kind of with a relatively recent lens. And so I'm already skipping down to what if we worked together a long time ago? Trust your instinct, right? The hope is that we are getting a sense of who the person that is going to be joining us kind of this coming year. So typically, and we'll prompt you in the application, hopefully within kind of the recent 3 years, that tends to be a good window. That said, if there's someone you worked with before, or maybe it's a mentor, maybe it's someone who supervised you years ago, but you have continued to be in contact with them, they've seen you grow, seen you develop, and speak to kind of a recent lens on who you are, totally okay. Trust your judgment. We trust you, kind of that at the bottom of the slide. I want you to know that at the end of the day, you know the people in your life the best. Coming back to those questions, who can provide some of those examples and insights into who you are, how you operate, and what kinds of impact have you made in the spaces you've been in? Next, do they need to have an impressive title? So do they have to be the CEO of my firm versus someone who might be an assistant director or my immediate supervisor? Or does it have to be a flashy name at a flashy firm? Or in a related sense, do they have to be connected to Stanford? So do they have to be an alum, faculty member? The answer to all of those is no. It's less about the title or who, it's more about what they're able to say about you. So if it's a CEO, and I've definitely, or kind of someone in the public eye, but all they can say is, hey, you're a great person, or it's just here's my endorsement kind of sent through. Awesome that they're willing to put that through, but I'm not getting the types of detail that are most helpful to me in the process. Oftentimes, and this is why we tend to ask for a current direct supervisor, they tend to be in a space where they have a lens on, what's typical for your role. So they have some comparison points for people who are quote unquote the equally qualified peers. And they often tend to be the ones in the best position to have given feedback and seen your response to it, right? And so that's why we tend to ask for someone who's a current direct supervisor. And again, we know that's not always the case, but the folks who are able to provide kind of those anecdotes, go with them versus someone you think might be impressive. Okay. What if I have more than 2 recommenders? Can I submit a third or even a fourth? And awesome that you have multiple people in your life to choose from. But this is the one time where I'm going to be like hard no. 2 recommendations. So we used to ask for 3 recommendations way back. But over time, we realized, people start to say the same things. 2 works really well for us. Oftentimes, those third or even some of the personal ones, you might have had an interaction with a student. So thinking, hey, maybe you've had them send something in. Oftentimes, those and the personal ones tend to just confirm that you're a great human. And we're kind of approaching this process with that in mind. And so that's why we shape and we prompt recommenders with those questions specifically, kind of leaning into that leadership lens and figuring out your impact versus just you are a good person, which we assume and we're using as a baseline. So in these instances, stick to the two. And again, I have no preference one way or the other. I often get asked, should it be one person from a professional space and one from like a personal or extracurricular or something that I love? I have no preference one way or the other. Two letters from the same organization can work really well. One from one place, one from another can also work really well. Again, each and every one of you has a different kind of relationship, different way you move through the world. We trust you to ask. Again, I'm going to keep coming back to that. On the same note, recommenders do not need to corroborate or echo the things that you're writing about necessarily, because some of the things that you're proud of might not have necessarily overlapped with your relationship and interaction with those folks. So that makes sense. Okay, so bottom line, resist the urge to over-strategize here. Next, and there's a couple questions here. What about professors? So for students, and for those of you who are applying for deferred enrollment, I often get this question as well. So think critically about the relationship and how that professor or instructor or lecturer might have interacted with you. And then come back to the questions. If they're able to speak to some of these things about how you've performed relative to equally qualified peers through the lens of some of those leadership competencies and skills, if they've been able to give you feedback, okay, so those instances might be times when, yes, a faculty member might be a wonderful recommender. So if they've only seen you in the classroom environment, I've definitely had times where, oh, so-and-so has gotten an A. So relative to the class, it was a curved grading scale. They did great. And I gave them feedback on an essay. They incorporated it. Awesome. Great that they're advocating for you, but not necessarily the types of detail that are helpful to me. And notice I am avoiding saying good and bad. I never think about good and bad letters of recommendation. I think about, okay, what details within here are going to help me learn about you. So even putting a slight shift on that approach. If that faculty member has seen you, maybe you are a teaching assistant or research assistant, maybe they were a club advisor or a mentor who has seen you work, grow, and develop, by all means, could be great people in your life. So in those circumstances, again, you know the people, we trust you. Okay, here's another note that I want to make sure to emphasize. How do you support potential recommenders? So first, start the conversation early. For those of you who might not even be applying this year, maybe you're applying next year or just thinking about it down the road, it never hurts to talk to folks in your life about kind of long-term growth, plans, career trajectories, right? Even beyond the utility of a letter of recommendation, these are the folks who might be able to give you some new ideas or opportunities, expand that network to really explore, is this something that I love or I want to continue doing? Maybe that's how you get to some of those internships or job opportunities or a reference later on when you land something and they're doing some of those checks. So beyond the utility of the application process, think about who in your life could be a sponsor, mentor, advocate. They don't need to have those titles to be able to serve some of those roles. All right. Feel free to share the links to the GSB letters of recommendation website with them. We've plopped them into the chat box. So feel free to share that with them. They are also going to be prompted by us in the portal. Here's what's helpful to us, and I shared with you already some of the exact language. We do our best to guide them as well. We recognize that not everybody has written a letter of recommendation before, and that's the whole purpose behind kind of framing it around those questions. Regardless of what their interaction is, their experience supporting people in the past, anybody can answer a question and anybody can be a really good advocate for you. All right, a word on coaching. So definitely as part of the conversation, hey, here's business school, what are they looking for? Always worthwhile to talk about some of these experiences you've had, but I'd also be careful about saying you should write about blank. If anything, talk about that experience with them, kind of unpack kind of the circumstances around it so that they can be refreshed. But at the same time, they might have a different lens on, hey, where have you made that impact? Or what types of leadership skills? Here's what I think. But so this is going to be a fine line, right? Because everybody has a different relationship with their coach, with that recommender. So, have the conversations, be careful about over strategizing. And on that coaching piece, I know sometimes there might be recommenders, or even out of the good intent, you're thinking, hey, you're super busy. Here's a template, just adjust things here and there. Resist that urge. Allow your recommender to speak from a place of their truth and their perspective, because that's what we're looking for. What are some outside lenses on who you are? Give them the freedom to speak their truth and their experience with you. You might be surprised at how many beautiful things they might be able to kind of uncover and unearth for you. So be a partner, but don't be the one who's writing it for them, because, that would also be a violation of the honor code. Remember, these are folks who are in your corner. They want you to do well. So allow them to do so. And last thing, that's the whole point of me creating this next phase, where we're going to be focusing on, here's resources for recommenders, also a few additional details on how to think about, what could be helpful, what to include if you get stuck, themes to return to. So those are some insights. And one more thing here, if you are currently unemployed, we know that is a factor of life, right? Economic trends are different. Even thinking about, hey, this job isn't exactly this doesn't give me joy. I want to pivot or change, but I'm in that interim phase. Totally okay. Again, previous employers, ask somebody who can answer those questions best for you. So again, we trust you. Okay. One other question before I hop over to the support for our recommenders is a professional email required, or is a personal one okay? There are instances like, let's say your recommender has retired, or maybe there are some work policies about using the work email. Totally okay. In the part of the application where you're saying, here's who my recommender is, it'll say, is this a professional email? If it's personal, you just check that, and you explain the circumstances to help us understand what's going. The recommenders do need to send in their forms and stuff through the portal, and they'll get instructions for how to do that there. So that is that piece there. And one more thing, we are asking for two on purpose, right? This is guidance, and following the rules and instructions is important. And also, remember, the application is super meaty. We're doing our best to ask for the types of information that are going to be most helpful to our readers and the admissions committee. More is not always more, right? So thinking about that and honoring the process, being careful, think critically about who they are in your life. All right. So what, you got this? Resist the urge to over strategize. Remember, these are people who are in your corner. They're here to support you, support them. End of the day, you are the most interesting person to me. And just a couple more kind of images of affirmation. This is my friend Helen. She's excited to learn. She's excited to learn about organizational development, change, and how to be an effective leader. So she's in this boat with you. Helen believes in you. I believe in you. You got this.